My dad passed away when I was only 1. It's been me and my mom ever since. As you can guess, my mom and I were very close. When I was a sophomore in high school, my mom got a part-time job as a gym teacher at my school. I supported her when she asked if I would be comfortable with it. It was extremely uncomfortable when guys would make comments on my mom's appearance. It also gave ammo to Brad, who bullied me in high school. He would make inappropriate comments about her towards me. Brad was a year ahead of me, so I thought I was finally rid of him after he graduated. I was wrong. When I became a senior, my mom started going out very often. Initially, I was happy for her because I wanted her to find someone nice. However, it came to a point where barely got any time together. To be frank, I thought she was avoiding me. This was because whenever I tried to make plans with her, she had already made plans before. I sort of kept it to myself because I didn't want to come off needy. I didn't complain when she missed my birthday because she was out all night. When she tried to apologize the next day, I told her it was okay. After 6 months of this behavior, I decided to take action. I asked my mom if we could have dinner together, just the two of us. She said she was too busy. I got fed up and told her to stop ignoring me. She said that she wasn't ignoring me but that she had a life to live. That really hurt me a lot. Out of anger, I started to ignore her for a few days. After those days passed, she finally apologized to me. However, she said she needed to talk to me about something important. She wanted to introduce me to her boyfriend at dinner. She didn't sound excited about it. It sounds like she almost dreaded it. When the door rang, my mom opened it up and introduced the guy to me. I was in extreme shock. It was Brad. I almost screamed at my mom, asking her what is he doing here. Brad came forward to acknowledge that this situation was uncomfortable, but he's sorry for how he treated me in school and that he really cares about my mom. My mom asked us to sit and let her explain how this all happened. I remember screaming, "I don't give a fuck about your explanation. You tossed me aside for this piece of shit. You're a pathetic excuse of a mother." My mom then defended him when said, "Don't you dare call him that." She then said she tried to accommodate everyone in this tough situation by keeping the relationship away from me. She then said, "Like it or not, Brad is here to stay. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to leave." I packed my bags right there and then. I called my grandma and told her about the whole situation. She drove to my house and confronted my mom. After a shouting match between them, I left with my grandma. My mom tried calling me several weeks after, but I blocked her. She tried to visit me, but I called the cops on her. After that, she sort of gave up. It had been 2 years since I'd heard from my mom. Then I get a call from her yesterday. She said it's urgent and we need to meet up. I don't know if I should go. Update. Well, curiosity got the best of me. There was also a burning desire to unload on her. I finally texted back my mom asking where should we meet. She said we could meet for lunch at the restaurant at 12 p.m. I didn't have any class today, so I was good to go. When I arrived at the restaurant, I heard some woman scream my name. It was my mom, who I haven't seen for 2 years. She asked how was I and said she would hug me, but said she knew I would reject it. Her voice was shaking when she asked me to follow her to her table. Unsurprisingly, Brad was sitting there. He didn't even look me in the eye as we sat down. He just nodded his head as if to simply acknowledge my arrival. As my mom sat down, she started shooting out multiple questions. "What you've been up to? Are you in school? How's it going?" I got annoyed and told her stop wasting my time with these questions. "What do you want from me?" She responded, "Well, before we tell you, can we explain how all of this happened?" I said sure. For those of you asking me to get her ass in trouble with the school board. I hate to break it to you, but they never interacted with each other when Brad was in school. Brad only knew about her because his friends would take pictures of her before gym class started and share them with everyone. It was Brad who approached her at a bar. She didn't recognize him. So he told her he went to the high school she works at and graduated recently. My mom was lonely and jokingly told him she wouldn't tell anyone that he wasn't 21 as long as he hung out with her. They exchanged numbers and made a promise to hang out with each other. She said she knew that I wouldn't be comfortable with her seeing a peer of mine. So she kept it a secret and convinced herself it was going to be a short and casual relationship. Eventually, the relationship got serious. When she was hanging out at his house, she asked him about introducing him to me. He told her it wasn't a good idea. She responded by saying, "I'll get over the age gap relationship." He was forced to come clean about the relationship I had with him in high school. That's when my mom started tearing up and her voice was shaking. She said she was in shock about what she had done. She couldn't sleep at night because of the guilt. She couldn't even look at me without feeling immense guilt. She had him blocked on her phone. After a week, he sent him a message on Facebook to at least meet him once. She obliged. He showed up with roses and begged for forgiveness. He even said he'll apologize to me in person and that he's a changed person. She took him back. The next was the day she invited him to dinner. My mom burst into tears and begged me to forgive her for hurting me. She then said these 2 years have been painful for her. Finally, Brad spoke and admitted she misses you like crazy, dude. She still needs you in her life. My mom said, "I am sorry for being an awful mother. We want to make it up to you. We're moving to California and we want you to come with us. We will foot the bill for your education and everything else. You won't have to work at all. You'll have a permanent place in our home. I don't know what the hell came to me, but I started laughing like crazy. Like a madman. It was the most ridiculous proposition. Now, this is what makes me the monster. This is what I really came there for. After I calmed down. This is what I said to her: Mom, you must be the most delusional cunt if you think I'll ever forgive you. You are dead to me for good. The only acknowledgement you'll get from me is me pissing on your grave when you pass away. Then she was hysterically crying. I got up from the table and left the restaurant. Only a minute after walking to the parking lot, I hear my mom screaming at Brad to stop following me. I really wanted this confrontation. The moment he grabs my shirt, I turn around and sucker punch him in the face. He drops on the road with his mouth bleeding. My mom comes to physically restrain him from hurting me until he calms down. I told them, this is what I think about your proposal. It's been 4 hours now after the incident. I know deep down I should be ashamed of myself. But I feel amazing inside. I don't know if adrenaline can last that long. It feel like I took my power back. Edit. I don't what job Brad has. My mom on the other hand has been saving up money ever since my father passed. I remember her telling me if I got good grades she'll take out a loan for me to pay for my school and pay it back herself. Story 2. My best friend from childhood invited me to her wedding but forgot to assign me a seat. I spent the night alone in a separate room. My childhood best friend, 23F, got married this weekend and I was so excited to be there to support her on her big day. I'm a chocolatier, so the bride asked me if I could create the wedding favors and dessert table. I was ecstatic to help with the wedding and went above and beyond to create a gorgeous table that was a huge hit on the day. I was told early on that the wedding was over budget and to keep costs low, my boyfriend was not invited. I was extremely understanding and even reduced my rates for the suite table as my present to the couple. A couple weeks later, after reviewing the guest list, the bride informed me that my boyfriend could come as my +1, but if he did, I would be moved from the head table. My boyfriend is a wedding photographer and is looking to build his videography portfolio. Knowing that the couple didn't have a videographer, he offered to film a professional wedding video free of charge. The bride was ecstatic and offered to move us to the vendor table so that we could network with the other vendors. We loved the idea and it was confirmed that we would be sitting with the vendors. The day of the wedding, we arrived 4 hours early to help with the event. My boyfriend spent the time filming while I set up the dessert table and helped the event coordinator set the dinner tables. After the ceremony, guests were moved to the cocktail room while the original room was converted into the room for the reception. While helping convert the room, I noticed that our names were not on the seating chart. I asked the event coordinator where we would be sitting and she said good question and left to find out. She came back to say that there was no vendor table and that if we were staying for dinner, my boyfriend and I would have to sit in a separate room as we were not on the list. The room was closed off from the reception, so we couldn't hear or see anything, let alone talk to anybody. I told the event coordinator that we were in fact guests and that we should be moved into the reception room. The event coordinator herself was seated at one of the tables in the room. I told her I was a longtime friend of the bride, and even originally meant to be seated at the head table. However, the event coordinator said she couldn't do anything about it. I approached the bride to explain the situation. She mentioned that it was definitely a mix-up and that we should be in the room. The bride mentioned that she didn't want to undermine me as a businesswoman, so she never told the event coordinators that we were friends or that I was a guest. She left the coordination of the vendor table to the event coordinator and left it off of the seating chart. The event coordinator was not made aware that any of the vendors, besides herself and the MC, were staying for the reception and therefore didn't think to add us in. Although I understand the mix-up, the bride did nothing to get us moved to the main room. My boyfriend and I were cut off from the reception with no one to speak to, no way to see or hear, and even had to ask to be fed. As a result, I missed the entire wedding and spent the majority of the evening crying in the bathroom waiting to move the dessert table into the main room after dinner so that we could leave. My boyfriend continued to film everything as he was committed to getting a beautiful video for his portfolio. The next morning I emailed the bride about the experience. She apologized profusely and said she was scatterbrained on the day and didn't think to do anything about it. She feels extremely guilty and would still like to be friends. I would like to forgive her, but I am still extremely hurt. Update 1. After reading everyone's responses and doing some reflecting, I've come to the conclusion that she's not my friend. Our relationship in the past few months has mostly consisted of her blowing me off, and me interpreting it as though she was busy. She moved across the country 2 years ago, but flies here often. Most of the couple's friends and family still live here, which is why they decided to have their wedding here. Every time she's come to visit, we've tried to make plans, which would end with me being blown off. The excuse was always that some last-minute thing came up, which is why she didn't have time to see me. She called me months before her engagement party to let me know that I would be invited to it, but I was never actually invited. I responded to pictures of it online, just saying gorgeous, and she explained that I wasn't invited because her mill planned it and didn't know her friends. Moral of the story, the only time I've seen her within the past year was to do a free tasting for her wedding after she mentioned that she would not finalize her order without a tasting. We had plans to meet up the same week of the tasting, which she blew. I reread her apologetic email and interpreted it differently the second time. The email mainly followed the structure of, excuse /, but that's not an excuse. In one section, she wrote that although she would still like to be friends, she understands that I may not want to and that's fine. To me it seemed as though she was saying she wouldn't care if we were to no longer be friends. At the end of the email, she added PS, we would still like the video, despite making it a point prior to the wedding to let my boyfriend and I know that she couldn't care less about the wedding video. Although she mentioned in her email that she would make it up to me, I haven't heard a word from her since I responded back to her email naively accepting the apology the day after the wedding. I watched my boyfriend's rough edit of the wedding video this week and listened to her speech. She added a section where she thanked her friends for transcending the lines of friends and family. She called out a long list of names from the friend group. Mine wasn't included, which sealed the deal for me. Especially since I was so involved in the preparation of the wedding that she wouldn't have just forgotten my name. Moving forward, I will be a lot more cautious with my circle, and I'll definitely be more strict with doing business with friends, no more paying out of pocket. My boyfriend has agreed to not go out of his way to send her the video. If she asks for it, he will send a link to a shortened version on his website. I couldn't convince him to add a watermark, although that was my favorite solution. Thanks everyone for your recommendations. So, we'll see if she comes around in a month or so. I will definitely not be reaching out.